All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So this may be a crazy one, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to title this podcast, Rejection is What Drives Me. And, I grew up for a long periods of time. My number one slogan, one of them was, I don't like problems. And it's funny because I saw the movie Blow with Johnny Depp, and Pablo Escobar in there says that to him when he was starting to make a deal with him bringing coke into the United States. And he told Johnny Depp, I don't like problems. And I laughed because I used to yell that even to my kids. But that was something that I always thought about. I do not like being aggravated. But what I realized too about myself, especially when I started to get in the film industry, is dealing with rejection constantly. There was not a time I wasn't being rejected. I could never raise enough money to a certain degree. I had to use my own funds. And then trying to get certain actors and trying to do certain things just takes a toll on you, especially if you don't have the money. But you still want to get it done. And I got it done, the best of my ability. Even after making films, you're getting rejected. And I remember even in my first book getting rejected. You're trying to cut a deal and get your book picked up by a publishing company. And you're getting rejected a lot. And as time went on, I just realized, I wanted to have the rights to my own book. And at that point in time when I was writing one, it wasn't as popular now to self-publish. But thank God I actually loved. And then when it came to my second book, I even was going back and forth with some publishing companies. And I just, not that they wanted me or I wanted them. I was just kind of going back and forth. I knew some people in the industry. And I was like, I just want the rights to my own book. But put that aside. Then I went on to do many other things. So in creating YouTubes, podcasts, all that shit. And a lot of us, I think that it's going to go a certain way. And I always say, very seldom does life or anything you go after go the way you think it's going to go. For some it may. Some it definitely does. Some have these goals and these desires and dreams, and they go almost very as planned. I know people like that. But I would also say 90%, if not more, never goes the way you plan. Because it's not just about what you're going after. It's all the other things happening in your life. So now, through the pandemic and stuff, I see a lot of people looking for jobs and trying different things, and a lot of people dealing with rejection on many different levels, even in relationships, at work, careers, wanting to accomplish things, businesses being shut down, loss of business, actually some others succeeding because of the pandemic, which not a lot of people talk about. A lot of people are doing very well in the pandemic, especially if you're in the state of Florida. So I think a lot of the country was in a totally different place than we were in Florida. So as bad as you thought it was where you were at, I can assure you a lot of things in Florida were going pretty good for a lot of people. Same with probably Texas, Tennessee, and other places as well. But, the one thing I tell people a lot of times, and they don't see it, is when you create certain things and you expect to make a certain amount of money or get a certain amount of exposure, you spend a certain amount of time marketing. You team up with a certain amount of people, marketing teams. You also go on many different platforms, social media. It could just be any type of ads or advertising, and you don't get the results you want. Sometimes none at all. And that's a form of rejection, no matter what anybody says. It could be even you putting up a video after a certain amount of time on YouTube, or I could be doing a podcast, and you don't get as many likes maybe, or comments, or views, or whatever the case may be. It's kind of a form of them. I'm not saying they're rejecting you, but people aren't gravitating towards it. And what's interesting is instead of using that, like a lot of people, I think, as quitting or kind of as a negative type thing, I actually dwell on that. I like the battle. That's not a problem to me. A problem is if somebody causes shit around me or causes chaos, talks shit, everything's very drama-driven, all that stuff. And that can go for our family members, our kids, friends. Causing problems is much different than me having to deal with rejection. So that's kind of how I separate them. But I'm just telling you, if you're going through rejection, and I talk about this on my Mastering Self-Confidence program, especially with guys trying to meet women, or even women meeting men, you may be getting rejected a lot. Right? Or things just don't work out after a while, even if you've been in relationships. For some reason or another, it just does not pan out. I'm just telling you, that's part of life. You cannot control what others do. But you got to understand too, rejection is very, very personal. And I'll just use, for example, if you are somebody out there applying for jobs, say, and you're doing interviews and you're getting rejected by people that you don't know, okay? You're not getting hired for this specific company, or that person who interviewed you did not, lead you to another interview or hire you, okay? That's a stranger. Do not give a stranger or a company or anybody all the power to control you emotionally. I know it's hard for me, or hard for people to understand that, because you feel like they don't want you, they don't need you, they don't care about you, that they don't think you're up to their standard. I'm here to tell you, fuck them. And it's not, I get that there's brands out there that are billion-dollar brands, and you may be in your mind a little nobody. That's life. But do not give people the power, because I'm telling you, what that leads to, in my opinion, is just misery, depression. And at times we're all going to be a little depressed. At times we're all going to be miserable. At times we're all going to be pissed off. But if you look at life, there are hundreds of other companies out there. There's thousands of other people out there you may be able to meet. Maybe it is time for you to move on to do something else. Maybe instead of chasing a job, maybe it's time to start your own business. I do believe that there's a lot of signals and signs out there. Maybe the industry you're in isn't for you anymore. If you're going through a lot of interviews and for some reason it's not working and you maybe wanted to try something else, kind of get creative. But don't let people destroy you. I'm just telling you, especially people you don't know, or companies that you have nothing to do with, or jobs that have never even gone and done before. I think you've probably worked in a lot of places like a lot of other people. And I can assure you, if you left there, you quit, or maybe even got fired, would you go back there, just for instance, and say, hey, I'd like to work here again? Most people would say no. A lot of the people, companies, or whatever you're going through in life, it could be even relationships, people you've dated, would you go back to that person and date them over again? Most likely, no. My point being is, a lot of things you're getting rejected by, you don't even realize they're not that good in the first place. They're not worth your time. You're dodging a lot of bullets. I definitely discussed that a lot in my program, is that, if you're a guy and you're trying to meet a lot of different women, and this could go for women meeting men, a lot of them may be rejecting you. Here's the good news. Most of them aren't worth your time. And even if you probably got in a relationship with them, this doesn't mean everybody. They probably may not even fit your lifestyle. They may use you. They may take advantage of you. They may lie to you. They're not all good people. Do you understand that? So a lot of times rejection, in my opinion, is a good thing on many different levels. And that's basically what I'm trying to say in this podcast. But I understand. Rejection is a backbreaker a lot of times. And you think that there's this blanket when you get rejected of all these people kind of looking at you. Or you got to tell your friends or family members, man, I did this interview, or I went and tried this, or I met this person. I got rejected. You're embarrassed. You feel like, you're scared that it's never going to work out. It never worked out before. All this shit, it's just one moment. And if you're, depending on what age you are, I can assure you there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of more moments in your future. So, anyways, you got any questions or comments, just hit me up. I am not going to, again, sit here and say I'm some guru on sometimes some of these subject matters, or I have a PhD and all these things. These are just things that I've gone through, and I just think people need to take an honest approach that, succeeding is not... I'm going to tell you, you're not going to succeed most likely as much as you're going to get rejected or fail. It's just life. But if you're living your life and you're healthy, you're on a constant, path of succeeding. You're living life. It's amazing in itself. And, you just got to look at that as one big, you're succeeding in life as far as your health and you're experiencing all these things. But the truth is, a lot of times life is very boring. And you are going to be failing a lot if you experiment or you try different things, you go to different jobs. If you're somebody, though, who's very kind of simple, you don't like to take risks, and you like to have one job for 40 years, you like to have one relationship for such, and you're with somebody and you find somebody and, you're married for 40, 50 years, wonderful. Some of my podcasts I get are kind of extreme, But I just try to relate to what I see or I'm around, because I just think it's very complicated times, especially through a pandemic. But and I'm not going to tell you it's not. It's just very hard, I understand, to go through rejection. But if you learn how to grasp it and how to deal with it in a different way than maybe you dealt with it before, instead of letting it bring you down, actually use it to make, to strive even further. So, anyways, that's all I got for you today. If you want, check out my website, richcelenza.com. My programs, masteringselfconfidence.com. So you can find me there as well. And YouTube and all these other places. Just Google my name. Take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.